We've got another story, and we'll lead off with this real quick. But there's a story out of Arkansas about a guy who stops a mass shooting, and I think it's really important to talk about because had this man not have been there, then every outlet would be like, oh no, another tragedy, another mass shooting from a crazy far right white. But he killed, I believe, one person, and then a guy grabbed his rifle and stopped him. It's a horrifying event, but I mean, in life, people do crazy things. This can happen. So in looking up the story, and I'll jump to it in a second, I looked up constitutional carry in the U.S., and the funny thing is, the gun rights advocates have been winning.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean like winning.
Yeah.
They just got in Texas recently.
They have this map here, and you can see it's going through the years.
Oh.
In 1986,
Vermont. That's it.
I mean, in 1986, you almost couldn't get a gun anywhere. It was may issue across the country, meaning states could be like, screw you, you don't get a concealed carry permit. Now, it's beyond concealed carry. It's straight up, many states are adopting constitutional carry. So we have here, right, like, I mean, look at this. The blue that you can see on the screen is shall issue, meaning if you apply for a concealed carry, they have to give it to you. It can be kind of prohibitively bureaucratic. You're going to get it. So there's only some areas of the Northeast and California and Maryland that are may issue, meaning you can apply and they can tell you to screw off.
Rude.
But most of the country now,
I hate it.
except for New Jersey, Long Island, and Hawaii, those are no issue in practice. They call it, meaning you're not getting a gun.
Yeah.
But in most of the country, you can get a gun, and more importantly, all of this green. It's like constitutional carry.
Yeah.
You can walk in, and now Texas is about to do it. Texas is about to pass constitutional carry. That means you can walk into a gun shop. You do a background check. A lot of, I guess, these Democrat people don't understand. You have to do a background check. Sometimes they tell you come back in a week. Sorry. Sometimes they say you're being researched. It'll take 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they say they've cleared you. But after your background check is done, you can buy your gun. And then in these constitutional carry states, you can walk out the door with it.
Yeah, Tennessee as well. They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. They are now.
It's broad across the country, and that's because they had. I mean, the NRA was part of it, but Gun Owners of America and these organizations and the activists had one vision, and it was I'm going to be able to buy a gun wherever I want to, and they have been successful. It is, not every vision is this grand scheme, but the right had that on guns, and they don't have it on a large skew of things.
And so I'll tell you one of the visions that I've certainly been having over the past year. This is a story from BearingArms.com. Armed citizen uses rifle to stop attempted mass shooting. Now, for the most part, I told everyone the story already. They say it was an 87-year-old woman. There was a guy who was yelling at people, get out here, come out here. Everyone get out of the building right now. When an older woman went out to, two women went out to console him, they saw that he had a weapon. They fled. He went into the apartments of one of the women and he took her life. At some point, there was a neighbor who grabbed a rifle of his own and fatally shot the killer. The police haven't released many details of the incident. We don't know yet what motivated Arnold to kill his elderly neighbor. It's clear that as a resident, Amber Lane told local media, there could have been many more victims were it not for the quick response by the armed citizen. Here's what happens. The Democrat types, and I say this specifically because leftists, like actual socialists, they love guns. They want guns. They want a revolution, so they advocate for guns. Karl Marx said, keep your guns. So these Democrat establishment types, these elites, are like, no one should have guns but the police. Oh, by the way, defund the police. Sure, whatever. I digress. They want to take away the weapons from the people. Then a criminal will get a gun, commit a mass tragedy, and they'll say, see, this is exactly why we're saying take away your guns. They'll make gun laws more restrictive, which will make the problem continually worse, and keep using the problem they created to justify making the problem worse. So in my vision, people have a right to keep and bear arms. And when unfortunate situations happen, people have a right to defend themselves. That's what I see. A Department of Gun Services, where when you turn 16, you go in, you fill out the paperwork, they bring you to the range, you do a standard shooting test, and then you get your free government-issued AR or handgun. I'm somewhat kidding, but the point is I'm saying I think people should be trained, should understand gun safety from a young age, and should keep and bear arms.
Don't they do that in Switzerland? Like, you have to have a gun in the household or something
They
like
say that, and we talked about that yesterday. I'm not sure how true that is.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's an urban legend that's partially true.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, in Switzerland, I don't think it is required, but it is very commonly accepted that you will be practiced in shooting. Young people do it. They used to have like a boys shooting club. Obviously now they take girls and everything, but they train them. They teach them to use it as a tool. This is something that I was arguing about, is like, this is something that you need to respect, but it also needs to be culturally accepted that you're going to have a gun. It shouldn't be weird.
They did it after World War II, right? Or during World War II, so they armed everybody. So if the Nazis ever invaded, everyone had a firearm.
Smart.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
and I know people who listen to this show are going to be like, "Oh, Tim's bringing up the same argument again." But because you maybe have not heard it, my argument is like, people drive cars, and I don't think they're going to hit me with their car. Sometimes people hit people with cars, sometimes on purpose. But I feel totally comfortable with everybody being armed, so long as they understand. Actually, I feel much safer with them understanding gun safety and having a weapon.
Well, look how many people actually have guns, and look how relatively few murders there are. And look, I mean people have cars, and how relatively minor accidents there are, but people are on their smartphones like playing a video game, texting while walking across the street. It is amazing that aren't like thousands of bodies scattered across major cities. But it does happen. Like, people generally are, and there are some people who are off their rocker, like the Vegas shooter or whoever, who like want to commit horrible acts.
Well, we don't know enough about that guy, actually. So
so whatever, the Columbine kids, whatever the case is, there are people who do want to create terrible situations, and they do exist, but they're always going to exist. I mean, that
crazy people will do crazy things.
Yeah, absolutely.
The argument from the left is that because there is a small fraction of crazy people, the overwhelming majority, 99.999, shouldn't be allowed to defend themselves. That makes no sense.
Do you know who the lieutenant governor of North Carolina is? Have you heard of this guy? He's Robinson is his last name. I can't remember his first name. He gave a speech. They were trying to do gun control in his local county, and he gave a speech. It went viral. Mark Robinson saying that, your criticisms of people committing crimes always, how do we hurt the law? How do we hurt the people abiding by the law? He's a big black man, rural place, has a big rural accent, and great man. And he's like, I am the majority, because the majority are law-abiding gun owners. I'm not a minority, and this is the problem. Is you say, how do I hurt the majority immediately? Not ever go after the minority.
None of these things, these laws they propose, hurts the criminals.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, we're going to make it worse for people who actually obey the law.
Yeah, and until we end up with like the minority report, where you can sit there and go into the future, it's not gonna change.
A good point that was brought up by our guest yesterday, Forrest Cooper, was that suppressors, for instance, make firing rifles safer. Those get banned because people have no idea what they're talking about, or they get restricted under the NFA.
Yeah, and the problem is with the media is, and I used to work at the Washington Examiner, a few years ago, like 5 years ago, and most people, and that was the right-wing media, most people don't own guns in the media, especially like New York media, DC media.
Yeah.
They don't own guns. They never fire them. Wasn't like the Washington Post who had a picture of like a chainsaw attached to a machine gun? Or
I think it was USA Today.
USA Today. It was like literally a chainsaw next to like an
chainsaw
AK
bayonet.
Yeah, it was the most insane thing ever. Like, clearly a weapon that would never ever work. It was like out of Star Wars, and this was a serious like conversation of possibly deadly weapons that they people could have.
We got it. Look at this. November 8th, 2017, USA Today issues clarification after depicting rifle with a chainsaw bayonet.
Oh my god!
I gotta say, I love this. The guy, I can't remember which news outlet he worked for. Maybe it was Washington Post. He said firing an AR-15 gave him a temporary form of PTSD.
Get the hell out of here! Get the hell out of here!
What, dude? I always say this. Imagine if the guy.
Maybe if you're a bad
hunting.
shot, like you'd be humiliated by it, but PTSD is.
As I've gotten more heavily involved in gun ownership, experienced firing a 12 gauge and firing an AR with in 5.56, and if this guy thinks that the 5.56 was that bad, and that's the actual weapon of war, 5.56 NATO, then I couldn't imagine him going small game hunting.
Yeah,
he'd be like, my arm, it hurts. What's happening?
I find smaller guns. I don't like handguns at all because it doesn't feel real. Like, I feel like I'm shooting with a gun when I'm shooting a rifle. When I'm shooting a handgun, I'm like, this feels like a toy. Like, I really don't. This doesn't feel safe. Like, I feel like I would like accidentally blow my own head off. But like a rifle, you have some kind of command of it. And if he had that, that's a lot. That's a man who cries after sex. I'm just gonna sit there and say it. There's no way he doesn't.
There's like validity to loud explosions and noises causing like long-term stress. They called it shell shock after World War I for people in the trenches. But I think as a human, you really
that was artillery shells like coming next to you
for months at a time.
For months at a time.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
We have a duty as humans to learn how to handle large explosions. Like, we should just be able to deal with that.
Well,
But it's not like a car bomb went off next to him. It was shooting a gun once.
I mean, controlled circumstance with an instructor with like safety gear on.
People do demolition like for a living across the whole country and never have this
The
problem.
Mythbusters would blow stuff up every day in in the Mojave Desert for fun for a TV show.
When the whole Earth rocks, when they're demolishing a giant skyrise and you're like 6 blocks away, that's
bro.
Wow.
We knocked down a tree in my backyard when we were in the Philly area. We had to get a tree removed because it was dying, and it was like had fungus or something. And so they were like, what we're going to do is we are going to go up, they climb to the top, they cut chunks of the top off, then measure, and they say, okay, we're going to knock it down straight this way, and it's going to slam into the ground. It was like an earthquake. It was crazy. When that massive tree came down, I did not realize the like shake that you would feel was like, whoa. It was like an explosion. It was crazy. And then we had someone across the street do the same thing, and one day I'm sitting there, it's like, boom, the whole house shakes. I'm like, wow. This guy couldn't handle firing a gun. Yeah. And there's a photo of a little girl. I love it. The little girl with the pink, AR.
Yeah.
But I've been to a bunch of different places around the world with civil unrest and conflict, and I've been in a bunch of riots. And there was one point where I was in New York. I was walking down Broadway in Brooklyn, and a car backfired, and then I immediately got an adrenaline rush. It was like, whoa. Because I was so used to being on the ground in these conflict situations that when the bang went off, it was like, that's when you are like in action mode. And then I was like kind of laughing at myself. I was like, wow, man. It's like, I got to chill out, I guess, because I'm getting
Yeah, but
sick.
like, I mean, there are people who like live in like Syria during the revolution, and like they undergo horrible things on a daily basis, and they don't sit there and feel the need to write an op-ed about how they were emotionally triggered by every moment of their life. They just, you move on. It's a shotgun you shot once.
If you watch videos from these war zones, many of them in more urban areas, you will see people literally just doing their daily business.
Right.
You'll hear gunshots and see a guy like just walking, carrying like a basket on his head or whatever.
Well, that was old New York. New York, I mean, I grew up there my whole life. I'm a 8th generation New Yorker. It makes you tough if you live there your whole life. And you just are unfazed by certain things. There was like a failed bombing there a couple of years ago, and the press ran there, and there are people like, they're like, can you stop? Like, no, I'm on my way to work. What are you talking about? Yeah, it just happened. Like, I'm on my way to work.
Right.
And that's what it makes you. And I guess if you're a very fragile person who's been very comfortable your entire life, like the most minimal thing just sits there and shakes you.
I think more than that, he had an agenda to push too, though.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and I was reading about Switzerland, and far from being a response to World War II, the reason that Germany did not invade Switzerland was because every man has to be in the military. And yes, they do have guns in every single home. They're issued by the government, which is Tim's idea.
They couldn't get them tanks up into the mountain.
There's a town.
The next right-wing president, Tim, is the head of the Department of Gun Ownership.
Right.
Gun services. There's a town in Georgia that mandates gun ownership.
Kennesaw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That's neat.
Mandates.
I want to go there.
That's awesome.
This is
Wait, do you get to pick your gun out? Or does it say
no,
you
have to own one.
But
I don't know.
I don't think they give you one.
Okay, but they don't sit there and say it has to be this style of gun. You could say any gun.
Oh, I don't know. I got it.
I don't know.
That's interesting. If they say like, if it's like North Korea, if they have a certain kind of hairstyle, but a certain type of gun. That's what I'm wondering. So
There's
yeah.
like 5 to choose from.
Yes.
I think at the Department of Gun Services, they would have like, 2 rifles to choose from and like 2 different handguns.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like garbage government issue. You don't want that.
Yeah, it'd be like
But if
Soviet
it's
Union
free-
stuff in like the 60s. And
Yes.
Yeah, like government cheese. It's like you walk in, they're like, we've got a captured AK, modified.
You go to use it, the whole thing falls apart. It's like exactly.
They'll have
That's
smart
but
guns
it's free.
with like tracking mechanisms, and then you have to turn in your gun to get a new
Government.
2023 smart gun.
Oh,
I like
They
the
can
idea.
listen to your talking.
I think it'll be a great equalizer to give everybody access. Now, look, the rich people will have the really great,
Of course.
high tech stuff, but then the regular people, can be able to walk in and get a handgun. And
But
a rifle.
you were mentioning before
And a
we
box
talked-
of ammo too.
We were talking before about like policing and everything like that, and the defund the police is coming out of a lot of the woke left and especially the wealthy left who live in private gated communities. A big thing about the police that people don't understand is it's not only something about safety; it's about climbing up the economic ladder. My family, my dad's side, super poor, 11 kids, super Irish Catholic.
Oh, wow.
Every boy became a cop because that's your only avenue to join the middle class. If you cut off that avenue, now in every major city in this country, basically, policemen are majority minority. Most are non-white. It is the avenue to become part of the middle class for people who have no other way of going to college and spending $40,000 a year and doing it. By cutting off the ability to become a cop, because the alternative now is to become a sociologist and back up $200,000 in debt. By cutting off the ability to be part of the middle class, the alternative for security for these gated communities is going to be private security guards without a pension, probably making maybe $25 an hour, and that's it, with no ability to retire. It actually suppresses people poor people even more, both in urban communities by making them less safe, but also cutting off the opportunity to join the middle class. I know that's a totally random thing.
But the riots do the same thing. They destroy residential neighborhoods, they destroy businesses, and the ultra wealthy can buy up cheap property and then sit on it and wait until the property.
Yeah, but if you care, if you are supposed to be a working class people, this is what you're supposed to actually care about: is how does the working class, how does the working poor make it in this country and advance themselves to some. Not everyone's gonna be a billionaire, and not everyone needs to be a billionaire or a millionaire, but some level, some floor of comfortability where their kids will do better themselves and they'll have some respectability at the end of their life. If that's the end goal, as it should be for any socioeconomic policy, this does the complete opposite. Yes, it destroys property, but it also cuts off the path to the middle class.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.